Welcome back to the show, everyone. We're doing a little bit of a different dynamic here. We're starting to include our player series and our coach series on these interviews on the show. So I'm super excited to bring to you a good friend of mine, John Petrishen. So John's unique, and he's the only Penn State and Pitt football letterman ever. He's also an all-conference linebacker at Pitt, two-time ACC Player of the Week, and he's a current CFL player. So really excited to have you on, man. Thanks for coming on, JP.
Thanks for having me, brother. It's been a long time coming. You know, this is something that I've watched at from afar, and I can really respect everything you do. I think it's great for the industry and for young kids coming up, and even for people that's been around the game like myself. I learn stuff every time I watch one of your videos, so I'm honored to be on here.
I appreciate it, man. And that's actually one thing. Like, there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
Always learning. Like, no matter how many, podcasts I listen to, no matter how many books I read, I'm always picking up something new from someone.
Facts.
It's funny. I wasn't going to lead with this, but, it's like we're friends. We go to lunch, we hang out, we have millions of conversations. But even you add a camera to the dynamic, and I still get a little bit of butterflies, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I'm actually at the point in my life, if I'm doing something that I like or that I'm passionate about, if I don't get butterflies, I'm actually a little upset by it.
I remember, like growing up, I'd be nervous for a game or something, and my dad would say that's good. It means you care.
Yes. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, like, now if I'm doing something and I don't get nerves, I'm like, dang, it's like, well, I'm not going to get that heightened sense of focus. Like, I'm not going to be as locked in. So it's almost like if I'm doing something that I don't get butterflies for, I almost stop doing it because it's like I've lost that passion or curiosity for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm off base there, but
no, I think you can use it as a directional sign.
Yeah.
Like it's almost a instinct or a gut feeling where if you're truly passionate about that or not. I think that's interesting. I've never thought about that before. We're getting off topic off the bat, but I love the idea of, I saw somewhere, in a book or in a video podcast where people view jealousy as such a horrible thing, as a negative connotation, but actually you can use it to your advantage, thinking that jealousy is really just a directional sign in your career and your life. Like, you're not going to be jealous over something that you don't want at all.
Yeah.
Like if you say you're not going to be jealous of, a baseball player because you don't want to play baseball, or like,
right.
or a New York City apartment. If you don't want to live in New York City, you're not going to be jealous of that. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So it's like, people, you view it as a negative thing, but it kind of tells you like where you're passionate about or where your interests lie.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do like that. Again, I never thought of it that way either. So we're getting off to a hot start. But no, man, to dive into your story and, why I think you're a great fit to come on the show too is, you continue to pursue your dream of playing in the NFL, where a lot of people would have told you a while ago to quit, give up, you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with that negative side of it, and how do you stay motivated to continue to pursue your dreams?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked it. I figured we were going to talk about it, but honestly, so many things. Well, first off, people have been saying that my whole life, and I think any athlete or somebody aspiring a goal that is uncommon, everybody is always going to tell you you can't do it.
Yep.
But my whole life, I remember, going to public school and then leaving public school to go to Central Catholic. Everybody was like, oh, you're not good enough to be there. You'll get lost in the sauce, whatever. And that's not what happened at all. I became one of the best players ever from Central Catholic, 35 Division I scholarships. And then I went to Penn State, or people were saying you're not good enough to go to Division I, and then did that. And then just like, there's always the next level, no matter what you're pursuing that's uncommon or at a certain level of success that most people can't achieve, everybody wants to tell you can't do it. And so for me, and I'm sure you felt the same way, I feel like growing up, like, we're always given signs of our abilities that makes us feel different. Like, I remember growing up, like, dunking for the first time or something, like having a sick touchdown of football where I'm like, wow, like I might be really good at this thing. Like I feel like chosen for this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in terms of pursuing it for that reason, I think it's very like logical. Like people are like, oh, like, why are you doing that? Well, one, they don't need to worry about it. It doesn't affect anybody else. It's not hurting anybody. Two, if they heard all the conversations that I've had with, GMs or NFL coaches or agents, whatever, and been in the rooms that been in and had the conversations I've had, you'd be crazy to not pursue it.
Yeah.
Like, I am this close. I'm at the 1 yard line from this thing, which is a lifelong, dream and aspiration. So, like, why would I not? And it's not taking anything away from my daily life. Like, if I was never to play football again, I'd still work out every day.
Yep.
I'm still going to stay in shape.
Right.
So what's the difference if I have a goal or I don't have that goal? You know what I'm saying? I still work 3 other jobs that give me income. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My football is my main priority, but I think people just like to look at others and don't want to see them. I don't want to say don't want to see them like become something great, but I think everybody just wants others to stay normal, quote unquote. And anytime somebody pursues something that is out of the norm, it's like, whoa, like, why do you think you can do that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need you to, or I don't mean you,
No.
but the public. I don't need the public to believe in me. I believe in myself. I've been given the vision. They haven't.
Yeah.
And, if I was in their shoes, I'd probably think the same thing, that I'm crazy. But I've never lost. I've accomplished everything on this journey that I've ever pursued. So, like, this is just another step. And so that's where I'm at.
And we'll go back and unpack some of, your journey to Penn State and Pitt, but a couple of key points that you talked about that I kind of want to emphasize, and a big kick I'm on right now. And I honestly don't even know if I saw this anywhere. It's something that I've kind of just adapted myself, and it's to be misunderstood as a compliment.
Yes.
Like, if someone understands your goals and your visions, either one, they're chasing that too, and it's an awesome ride to be on with that person, or two, if they don't understand it, it's a compliment because you're chasing something that's pretty special.
Yeah.
And so the problem that I think people have with that is I think people feel inferior or they make excuses for themselves. Where the real problem lies is they look at a goal, and instead of recognizing they're not willing to commit what it takes to reach that goal, they're putting it off to luck and saying like, oh, like JP, the only way he's getting there is if it's lucky. Like, he doesn't deserve that.
Yeah.
Because it's their own ignorance
right.
to what it takes and to what it actually, acquires to get there.
Right.
So I think that that's just a huge kick that I'm on right now. And it's something I've written about, talked about. It's, seek to be misunderstood.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I mean, I think if the general public saw my vision board at home, they would crack up. I mean, but that's them. Like I said, like, they haven't had the visions that I've had. They haven't, like, I've proved to myself so many times of why it's possible. And I actually tweeted something the other day, like, how many confirmations do you need for what you already know?
Yep.
And like, I truly believe that anybody, and this doesn't go just for me, if you truly set your mind to something and you don't give up, you can accomplish anything. Like, I believe I can really do anything I want, whether that's become an astronaut or play in the NFL or whatever I wanted. Like, I won't give up. I work hard, and I'm a good person. And I truly believe that by playing the long game, good comes to good. And if I continue to eat right, sleep right, work my butt off every day, good things are going to happen. And it might not be tomorrow. It might not be in a month. But down the road, sometime it's a guarantee. And that's been the recipe I've followed my whole life. And it hasn't failed me yet. So I'm going to continue to do that. But I think that's where we should start.
Nah, absolutely. And it's the little things that pile up, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like you take one big haymaker one day and you think everything's going to come. And right. I think that is what people think happens. But it's the little things that you do every single day for days, weeks, months, years.
Yeah.
That end up stacking up and compounding and growing. Mm-hmm. So there's this saying in entrepreneurism, like, it takes 5 to 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah, I love that.
Where most people are viewing success in, months or even a year. Overachievers view success in decades.
Right.
So it's like, even if someone's right that you don't make the NFL tomorrow, if you make it in 3 years from now, you won.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like people can't grasp that commitment level, and they want to make excuses or tell people not to chase things.
Right.
At some point in everybody's life, like, there is a pivot, but it's not for anyone else to determine that pivot.
No.
But you.
No.
And so that's why, because I know how hard it is. Like,
Yeah.
having lived that life.
Right.
Like, I know exactly what you're chasing. And just anytime I would see anyone say anything negative about that process, whether it's directed to you or to someone, across the country that someone just wants to tweet about or complain about, it's like, why would you not just, like, support them? What is your negative
Right.
opinion? Like, what is the benefit of that? Who are you trying to help or prove?
Right.
So that's like, that perspective that I have is just like appreciation for what you're doing, because I know how hard it is. I know you know how hard it is.
Appreciate that, man. No.
So it's awesome.
The journey gets lonely, so people that appreciate that mindset, it means a lot to me, and I hold them near and dear and close to me. And, like, you and I, we send each other texts of, inspirational. We're on the same wavelength, and I've really learned to appreciate those people in my life and, keep them in my circle. And a quote that I love that goes hand in hand with what you just said is, how long are you willing to sprint without knowing where the finish line is?
Yeah.
And that's really the mindset that I take throughout this process. And but also, to your point, like, I don't know why it bothers people so much, because there's so many negative people on Twitter or wherever that say, like, oh, it's not going to happen. Well, I mean, I already won a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, I've played Division I. I've gotten multiple degrees for free. I'm not doing this because I need to. I'm doing this because I have to. I mean, I got a degree from Penn State, from Pitt, from Central Catholic, and a notable football player at all three. Like, getting a job will not be a problem. You know what I'm saying? That's not the issue here.
Yeah.
Like, I can go do whatever I want. So I'm pursuing football because I want to, and because I know it's right there. I mean, there is a visible, logical path. If I go have 100 tackles in the CFL season, I will be signed to an NFL roster this time next year. Like, that is a guarantee.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of the dominoes falling in the right place at the right time. And the journey is the fun part. You know? I'm sure that you or whoever, when you're pursuing a long-term goal, it's almost like a negative sigh of relief when you get there. Like, you appreciate it, but you're like, oh, like, what's next?
Yeah, what's next? That's like, okay, what's next?
And that's something that I've tried to improve on, is really appreciating the process and the journey, because it's all about the lessons I learn and who I become as a person while pursuing that goal. Yeah. And so the journey is the fun part. And I know we haven't talked about my Penn State story yet, but that whole journey and era prepared me for this. Yeah. And mentally, like, this is nothing now compared to that. Now I have all the tools equipped with me for this journey. So
how much of your mentality right now is, like, straight, like, brute force versus positive psychology versus some of the other tools and tricks that you have at your disposal? Like, how do you approach each day?
Everything is positivity. And that is something that my younger self did not know. I've always been a positive person, but I think having the energy, being able to affect other people in a positive manner, it's contagious. And I think we all know negative people, and it's draining.
Yes.
I have zero tolerance in my life for negative people, whether it's a family member, a friend. And I've just, over the years, I've become a lot more cognizant of that and how it affects my mood. And then that affects my performance. It affects the way I think. I think so many people in general are afraid of failure or mistakes or looking silly, to that they miss out on the opportunity to grow in a certain aspect. And that's a whole nother umbrella we could dive into, but positivity is everything. My day starts with it. My day ends with it. Gratefulness. I really pride myself on being positive at all times. I like to think that if you call and ask anybody in my life, like, what is one word to describe me, I would hope positivity is one of the first words that come out of their mouth. Because I think it's extremely important. And even if you have to fool yourself, like, you're going through something that sucks, obviously, like death of a family member, something bad. And I had a video I posted on TikTok about this the other day is don't be sad before you have to be.
Yeah.
Because it's a guarantee something bad is going to happen to all of us, whether it's losing a job, somebody breaking up with us, somebody passing. So why would you be sad before you have to be? Happiness is a choice, and I will die on that hill. And that is something that will change your life. And it has changed mine completely.
I love it. And one of my perspective shifts too is like, if a bad event happens, you don't have to be happy that event happened, like the death of a family member. But the mindset shift is, yeah, this sucks, but I can handle it.
Right.
And it's, I'm built for this, right? Like for me in my own personal life, my grandfather passed away, and he played a pivotal role in raising me, my biggest fan.
Mm-hmm.
He passed away at end of December. And then obviously I'm coming fresh off my 3rd knee surgery in the last 6 months. It's like, obviously, like, I'm not positive those things happen.
Right.
But it's like, I can be grateful and joyful while I mourn my grandfather. I can be grateful for the memories we had and the life lessons he taught me. And then the knee injury, I know I'm built to handle it.
Yeah.
And already in 3 months, I'm like a month and a half ahead of recovery. So it's just like being able to approach it, like not necessarily like happy that it happened, but like understanding like this doesn't have to be miserable.
Right.
Like I don't have to be a drain on other people.
Right.
So it's like that concept is huge. And like being able to choose gratitude and be joyful, like in these moments, it is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing actually, like the actual act of like choosing gratitude, whether it's journaling, verbalizing, morning or night, midday, whenever you do it, the actual impact it has like on your mood, to acknowledge the millions of things that you could be grateful for that some others might take it for granted, actually improves like your general mood towards everybody else and everyone around you.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that the main rule that, like I said earlier, that I believe in is that like comes to like. Whatever you set your energy on, positive, negative, those things are going to come to you. And I believe, being positive, I'm going to bring the right friends, the right family, the right partner, the right events in my life if I just continue to choose to be positive, all the time. And I used to think it was corny in a way to like, oh, this man's happy-go-lucky all the time. But it's honestly like, it's just so much easier to live that way.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
I really learned that at Penn State when, after a few surgeries in a couple years, and I was just so mad at the world. And that's not me, and who wants to be sad all the time, and mad at people? So, and if that's what you set your energy level on, then you walk into a room, like you can visibly see how somebody is feeling that day, whether they're smiling, starting conversations, laughing, or if they got their head down, their body language is bad, and that's just going to either bring people to you or push them away from you. And I believe that in, all aspects.
There's so much I want to unpack here, but I do want to make sure we get to your college career.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I want to talk about, Penn State. Obviously, I know you had, just knowing you had injuries. Yeah. Things probably didn't go exactly how you pictured it.
Nope.
So let's talk through that. What is like the first step of adversity that you really hit, and kind of what you didn't have then that you have now from a mindset perspective?
Oh, man, so much. And I think about this all the time because, honestly, kind of like what you said earlier, I can just look back and I can just pick out like different moments that taught me different specific lessons, like along the journey. And I'm like, wow, in the moment that sucked, but I'm so grateful that happened because now I have this.
Yep.
Or, now I can handle that. And, growing up, I consider myself to be very, fortunate. I come from a good family, 2-parent household. I was lucky. So I never really had true adversity until I got to Penn State. And, from Central Catholic being a big recruit, it was a big thing when I went to Penn State, and I had high expectations, very high. We all did. And it couldn't have went further from my expectations. And, I had 3 surgeries in 4 years. I get there and, immediately within the first month or so, blow out my ankle, had ankle surgery. And, so I was on crutches for a year because I tried coming back too early, did the same thing, had to get the same surgery again. And then, so that was my first 3 years. I had 3 season-ending surgeries. And so that, drawing it up, like that was my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
If you would have asked the 18-year-old version of myself what my nightmare was, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And 6 months before that, it was my dream. I was going to a Division I school, powerhouse, like, wow, this is awesome. And it just flipped so fast. But there's so many things about my Penn State experience that I'm grateful for. I'm so happy I went there. My best friends in the world are from there. My last year at Penn State, I still played in every game. We were a top 10 team every year. So it was a great experience. And people ask me all the time, like, oh, do you regret going there? Do you wish you would have went to Pitt from the jump? And I think, regret is the silliest thing in the world. Like,
well, two things can also be true at once. Like,
yeah.
Would I've liked to have gone to Pitt and played all 5 years? Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But I'm also extremely grateful for Penn State and my experience and what I learned.
No doubt. Exactly. But to me, regret is like a silly thing because there is no way, it's literally impossible to think about if I would have went to Pitt, if it would have been, there's no way to prove if it would have been better, worse, or the same than my Penn State experience. I could have went there and got hit by a car walking across campus.
That's
and
exactly right.
You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you're making a daily decision, a random decision on, what milkshake to get at the store, chocolate or vanilla.
Yeah.
There's no like long-term effect. It didn't make a difference which one you chose. But in big life decisions that take years to play out to see the result, you can never know if the other one was going to be better or worse.
Yep.
You can't. So people are always like, oh man, I should have did this. You don't know if it would have been better or worse. So I like to say, make the decision right. You'll never know what the right decision was, but whatever you choose, make it right.
Yep.
So make it the best you possibly can. So, and I think my Penn State experience, like I said, prepared me life lessons that I'll carry with myself for the rest of my life. And I'm so grateful for that because that era made me who I am today. No doubt about it. And I don't think if I would have had success from the jump, maybe I wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Yeah. I actually think about that point a lot. It's actually funny. We're basically almost
very similar.
We are. And it's funny because we were almost teammates at Penn State. I was a phone call from Narduzzi away from being with you at Penn State. I think it would have been your sophomore, junior year.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but it was my 5th year. And I was pretty much gung-ho, like committed to Penn State. The only reason I didn't sign was because if I had signed, I wouldn't have been able to come to the spring meetings. Or else I would have been signed. Well, I have strong connections with the Pelusi family. And so they had let Narduzzi know because, Pitt had been recruiting me that I was going to go to Penn State. And he called me, and we just had a really good conversation. And then I flipped and ended up going to Pitt. Grew up a huge Pitt fan.
Right.
So,
me too.
But it's funny because obviously my season at Pitt didn't go the way I envisioned it. I lettered. Obviously had an opportunity to play in, rookie minicamp with the Bills. But if you would have asked me how my 5th year would have played out, exactly how you said about Penn State, like just was the total opposite of every scenario that I had envisioned. And so people will ask me, well, do you wish you would have went to Penn State? And that same answer comes back. It's like, you just don't know.
Right.
I'm like, the benefit of hindsight, sure, like you can, nitpick throughout your life, but you just don't know. But like the connections I've made at Pitt and the life lessons I learned at Pitt, there's no guarantee I would have learned those at Penn State.
Right.
So it's like, I'm so grateful of my failures at Pitt and the things that didn't go my way that really taught me how to be even more resilient.
No doubt.
And so like, I can appreciate through and through what you just said because it's real.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that ask you, like, do you regret leaving Bucknell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, I probably would have went back to Bucknell. They had some weird school rule where you had to graduate in 4 years. And they would have made me sit out. But like,
gotcha.
Or I would have had to sit out a semester, and I didn't want to do that. Like,
Right.
I wanted to be with my boys.
Right.
But for me, it was always about, I needed to prove to myself that I wanted to play at the next level.
And you
So
did,
like,
bro.
And so like that, and I got for so long in my life, it was about proving everyone else wrong. But then finally it shifted to like proving myself right.
Yeah.
And I became so much more secure with who I was as a person. And when I proved everything to myself that I needed to prove, there's nothing anyone else could say that's going to change my own opinion of me.
Yep.
Like I have all like the proof I need to that I accomplished what I wanted to, or that I have proof that I could have accomplished more.
Yeah.
That I actively chose not to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where like I think a lot of unhappiness comes from in people, is they don't actually make an active choice, right? Because there's a commitment level and a sacrifice level that comes with achieving goals.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me to continue to pursue playing in the NFL, I knew what I was going to have to sacrifice and give up.
Mm-hmm.
Would I've ever made the NFL? I don't know. But I knew I wasn't willing to sacrifice like the family aspect of it.
Right.
I didn't want to have to pick up and fly all over the country every week for different workouts with different people, go to Canada to play, because I was married.
Yeah,
totally
different.
My daughter was on the way. And like, you know, from my own family experience, like being a dad was always super important to me.
Right.
Because I came from like a divorced family home. So like I see the impacts that has. So like for me, it was, I want to be with my family. Like that's my number one priority. And so where I think a lot of discontentment comes from is people don't have that conscious ability to say, I don't want to sacrifice that.
Right.
They don't know what it takes. But when you know what it takes and you can consciously say, I don't want that, you're much more satisfied with your life and who you are.
And leave it on your own terms.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
1000%. Yeah. I think if I was in this situation, I would have done the same thing. You know, you definitely needed to be there for your wife and your daughter, and you needed guaranteed income. You know, that's not, you're a dad.
Yeah.
That's totally different. Yeah. And I'm lucky enough in the position now where, you know, I don't have a wife, I don't have a kid. So this is a fun journey for me, like being able to travel the world.
Yes.
Like I'm living in Vancouver, you know,
yeah, exactly.
And meeting all the people along the way and being paid to play football. Like, you know, and still have time to do other jobs and hobbies. So, you know, I totally see where you're coming from, though. It's a big sacrifice. You know, being a young single man definitely has its perks in terms of being able to chase this and instead of, you know, being a family man.
There's trade-offs in everything.
Yeah, no doubt.
And even if like my wife would have 100% supported me if I wanted to keep playing.
Right.
And that's like what also gave me the comfort in being like, you know, I've proven what I need to myself.
Yeah.
Like my wife is going to love me regardless.
Mm-hmm.
My newborn's not going to give a crap.
Right.
So for me, it was like I made like the conscious choice to not to continue to pursue that dream and to put my, you know, faith and efforts into other endeavors.
Right.
So like the point like I really want to emphasize here and get across is like know what you want and know what you're willing to commit to. Find that equilibrium. So
one more thing I want to finish up with that. Something that I think you'll resonate with is like anybody that knows ball knows that you accomplish everything.
Yeah.
And it's the same with me, you know. Anybody that is criticizing someone else, and this goes for anything in life, anybody that is criticizing or, you know, hating on someone for trying to do something, it's always coming from someone below you or that hasn't done it themselves.
Yes.
And I have to remind myself of this all the time because on this journey, it will never be somebody that's in the NFL or that has played in the NFL being like, JP, you're crazy.
Yeah.
All of my friends in that, bro, go for it. You're right there. Like, you're going to do it. It's anybody that says or is negative about it is always somebody that was like a bad player in high school and never played in college. You know, it didn't work out how they wanted to, so they got to try to bring you down.
They're trying to bring you to their level. That's exactly
never somebody from above you. So and that's really like another quote that I live by is, don't take advice from somebody you wouldn't take criticism from.
Yep.
And so like a lot of these, you know, people on Twitter or whatever who don't even have a profile picture, you know, Joe Smith 412.
Yeah.
Oh, JP, you're crazy. Like, go get a job. Yeah. I wonder what kind of high school player you were. You know, did you play in college? Like, what is your credibility to be able to tell me what I can do and can't? You know, so the people that are saying that stuff to you or like make you feel inferior, like they haven't done it themselves.
Right.
And that's something I got to remind myself of all the time.
Nah, when you're to be criticized, you have to be in a position to be criticized.
Yes, that's good.
And the people that are normally criticizing you, like you said, are the ones who haven't done it.
Right.
The Joe Smith 412s that are likely eating a bag of Lay's,
Right.
drinking a Coke, watching you do your thing.
Exactly.
But I want to take a step back now and transition to your experience through Pitt now.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously Penn State doesn't go the way that you want it. Now you have this opportunity at Pitt.
Yeah.
So walk me through what went right and what you learned that you're able to put into your efforts at Pitt.
Yeah. So first off, I think something that I also learned throughout my career is that confidence and that belief in yourself is the most important thing. I believe that in life. I believe that in athletics, business, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to. And you have to really, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but it has to be visible to other people.
Yeah.
And you have to toot your own horn before anybody else does.
Absolutely. Well, real quick, there's this saying I love. It's like, nobody roots for you when you need them to.
Yeah, Alex Hormozy.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the best.
That's exactly right. Everybody roots for you when you don't need them anymore.
Right, yeah. When you're, at the pro level, when you don't need it, that's when all your fans come out.
Yep.
But when it's not popular to root for you, nobody's going to root for you then.
Yep.
So I think the biggest switch for me was realizing how much Coach Narduzzi believed in me.
Yeah.
And because I'll never forget when I was in high school and I was calling him to thank him for the opportunity to go to Pitt, but to tell him I'm going to Penn State. I called him and told him, thanks, Coach Dews, for the opportunity, but I'm going to go to Penn State. Yada, yada, yada. He said, I think you're making the wrong decision, but if you ever want to come back home, I'll always have a spot for you. And I never forgot that. In my head, I was like, thank you, but I won't be needing that.
Right.
So 4 years later, go in the transfer portal, and I already knew I wanted to go to Pitt. To me, it was just a vision. Like you said, I grew up a Pitt fan, and it just seemed like the right choice at the right time for me. So, I got in touch with Coach Narduzzi, and he welcomed me back with open arms. And we had many conversations, and I could just feel that he believed in me. And he didn't have to take me back because at that point I was damaged goods. Yeah. I didn't prove anything. I was a special teams player at Penn State, coming off all these injuries. Like, he didn't need me. But I had 6 different position coaches in my college career, which after you lose the one that recruited you, you're the redheaded stepchild. Yeah. Like, they didn't recruit you. They didn't see the potential in you. Mm-hmm. And really, if you don't perform well, that's not on them because they weren't the ones that signed off on you.
Right.
So they want to prove themselves as a coach by the players that they believed in, the players that they recruited, paying off.
Yeah.
So going through all those coaches, I got a good gauge for like who wants to see me succeed, who believes in me, and who I'm going to have to bend over backwards and be perfect to even get a shot. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like any athlete knows that.
Yep.
And there's a huge difference for me in knowing when a coach believes in me and being able to feel free and play with no worries versus looking over my shoulder and being afraid to make a mistake.
Yep.
And that's
super factual.
Night and day difference versions of me.
Yes.
And I don't know what it is, if it's a mental thing where you second guess yourself.
Yep.
And in football, if you're going to break on the ball or not, if you're going to go for the pick or go for the tackle, those are split-second decisions that you don't think about. It just happens. But subconsciously, when if you mess up, you're not going to get another shot, that alters everything in your thought process.
Yes.
So at Pitt, I felt comfortable to make mistakes. And I felt comfortable having a leash to where if I mess up, it's not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
I will learn from it. My coach believes in me and will correct it, and it'll make me better. Not where every day is an audition and I have to prove myself.
Yeah.
You know, I can have a bad practice and I can still be the starting linebacker this week. And we can go watch the film, correct it, and I'll get better from it.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not saying that I would take my foot off the gas because of that.
Yeah.
But it's
a different approach.
Totally different approach. Yeah. And I'm so appreciative of that. And I think, like I said, everybody has had a coach in their life to where they have performed better or worse because of that relationship. And I would never, ever blame a coach for playing bad. I think that's the worst excuse ever.
Yeah.
But just, growing older and, and talking to young players and, being a mentor for some people, I want to be that person that instills confidence and belief in other people because I know what it felt like when playing for somebody that doubted you.
Yeah.
And so for me, putting that confidence in myself is everything. Like when I'm playing with confidence and swagger, I'm the best. You know what I'm saying? And so that was the biggest difference for me at Pitt. And I was home. I just felt like I could be myself.
Yeah.
And so I will be forever grateful for Pitt and Coach Narduzzi because it was really a storybook ending to my college career, and it was, it makes me want to cry because I was so happy. I swear, my first week at Pitt, I called my mom, and I was crying, and I said, "Mom, I'm positive this is gonna work here."
Yeah.
Because I could just tell how they treated me.
Yeah.
They rolled the red carpet out for me.
Yeah.
They believed in me, and I was like, I can be the player that I envision. I can fulfill my potential here. I can just see it. It's going to happen. There's no doubt in my mind. And it was just, it worked out perfect, exactly how I envisioned it, like I was watching a movie that I already saw 1,000 times. And I remember that second game of the year at Tennessee, I had the game-winning stop on 4th and 1 on the goal line, on the 1-yard line to win the game. And I swear, after that play, it was just the most euphoric moment where I was like, wow, it all makes sense.
Yep.
And then, the rest of the season was, history. It went exactly how I intended it to. And if you would have told me, years before that I'd be a starting linebacker at Pitt and we'd win the ACC championship, I would say, not in this lifetime.
Yeah.
1, I never thought I'd play linebacker. 2, I never thought I'd be at Pitt, and I didn't see Pitt winning an ACC championship. So that's just I think all the time that faith and fear both require you to believe in something that you can't see.
Yep.
And sometimes, you can't see the route. You can't see the path that it's going to take you to get to that goal, but knowing that it's going to happen, you don't know how, but it's going to happen, I think is everything. That belief. So that's, I know this is a long-winded answer.
No, it's perfect. Because there's things I want to unpack.
Yeah, so go ahead.
No, so a couple things. We're talking about confidence, ego, humility, things of that nature. I want to unpack those here in a sec. The faith thing, is huge to be able to see things you can't see.
Yeah.
But what also you have subconsciously, speaking of subconscious, is you have proof of all the work that you've put in, and you have proof of results.
Yeah.
So it enables you to believe that something out there that you can't see yet is coming to fruition because you have proof of your works, and you're actually putting in the work.
Yeah.
But why I'm excited to get coaches on here, too, is for that exact conversation about instilling belief in your players. Maybe we'll have to get Narduzzi on here.
Yeah.
But I have this conversation with people I know that are coaches and scouts at the NFL level, and I get so annoyed with the turnover conversation with quarterbacks in the NFL because I'm like, the communicatory process with your quarterback cannot be don't turn the football over. Because when you talk about that with quarterbacks, it makes them second guess everything.
Yes.
So then when you're simultaneously yelling at them for not making a read or making the throw, at the same time you're yelling at them for turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's an element to you need to protect the football.
Yeah.
You don't want to turn the ball over to the other team. but you got to let your guys play freely.
Yeah.
You got to let them make mistakes.
Right.
Too many people look at things in singular moments as opposed to 5-10 years of work.
Yep.
And so now guys are forced into pigeonholes where they have to succeed game one, or it's like they suck, they can't do this, they can't do that. Whereas when you're a coach and you're in that organization, you can't let the outside noise impact you, and your owner can't let the outside noise impact decision making. It's got to be, you got to play freely. We got to work through mistakes. You got to learn what you can or can't do in the situations in which you can or can't do something.
Yeah.
And so I'm big on that, with that coach-player relationship, the GM-player relationship, the owner-coach GM-player relationship, because those communications in the locker room, behind closed doors, really determine so much of what happens out on the field. And people who aren't in the industry or don't have the perspective of like the mindset and how things work, they can't understand that.
Right. Yeah.
And it drives me nuts with the Twitter GMs that get to determine who's good and who's not. It's like you don't understand. It's like I see things on Twitter. I'm like, that's not how that worked at all.
Don't get me started, man.
So,
oh my gosh.
So that's a big thing that I wanted to highlight, and I can't wait to get into those conversations with coaches.
Yeah.
But
I think a really good point following that up is, I don't know if you know Kristen Mackel.
I don't.
She was a sports psychologist. She worked with us at Pitt with her team. And I credit so much of my success to her because she really changed my mindset, helped me be more confident in myself. And a lesson that we talked about that I learned from her is when you said, don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Every word we speak, our brain has a picture that represents that word. And there's literally no picture for the word don't.
Yeah.
You can't prove the negative, you know? So many times, for example, when you see a wide open player drop a pass, because it's the easy one, and while it's in the air, you're saying, don't drop it, don't drop it, don't drop it. But really, you're saying, drop it, drop it, drop it, you know? Yep. But when you focus on saying, catch it, catch it, catch it, you're going to catch it.
Yep.
You know? You're just so afraid of dropping it.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
And I think, like you mentioned, you know, the pressure, when you're so afraid of something happening, it's almost inevitable that it's going to happen. Yeah. I really believe in speaking things and thinking about things into existence. You know, your thoughts become things. If a coach is consistently harping on you, don't turn the ball over, you're constantly envisioning you turning the ball over. It's going to happen then, you know? So I think that's just a great aspect, talking about psychology and everything, that plays a huge role.
Nah, I love it. And I want to transition into that conversation of confidence, ego, humility, narcissism, because I saw you have this conversation with our guy, Trey.
Yeah.
And I wish I was there for that conversation because I'm very direct with my language. I think language is huge in how you define everything around you, how you give words meaning. You don't just throw words around, or else they lose their purpose.
Yeah.
Right? So a big thing like about confidence, about ego, right, and how I define those, and I want to, again, hear your iteration of those words, but like ego in my mind is like if you're doing it for someone else. Like if I'm doing it, if I'm shouting like about how great I am to prove someone to someone else, to me that's ego. If I'm speaking like in our conversation, like because it's for me, that's confidence, right? Like if any I would say any successful athlete, like if you challenge them, it's either gonna be like, and it's like a worthy adversary, you're gonna be like, okay, let's go. Or if I can't physically say let's go in the moment, I'm gonna like chirp back.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like that's confidence. Like I have the confidence in my abilities to accept the challenge, to let you know beforehand this is how it's going to go.
Right.
And guess what? If it doesn't go that way, we'll go again.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like confidence and ego, to me, big difference. Like ego is for someone else.
Yeah.
But confidence is like for yourself and for within.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah. And I think everything comes from, within for me. I love the quote, a press conference from Draymond Green, who's everybody knows is not the best shooter.
Yeah, right.
But somebody asked him, he passed up a wide open shot or something and passed it to Steph or Clay. It was wide open. Everybody thought he should shoot it. And, and somebody asked him, if you would have shot it, would you have made it? Or something, that might have been the question. And he said, of course, if you don't think that you can already accomplish what you're trying to do or that you're already the best, you don't have a shot.
Yep. I know exactly which press conference you're talking about.
You have to think that you're the best, and it's not in a cocky way. And what I love about Deion Sanders, he gets a lot of bad flack too because of a lot of people think he's arrogant. But I love his confidence, and I love that he never negatively puts down anybody else when he's talking about himself.
Yeah.
If he's talking about himself, he's saying things about how good he is at something or implying, that he's special or what he's done, telling people about the proof that he has.
Yep.
He's not saying, oh, you suck. You can't do it like me.
Right.
It's never about other people. Yeah. And I think that's where the big misconception is, with confidence. And that's how I was raised to be extremely humble. You know? My dad is old. My parents are older. My parents are both almost 70. So they come from, the blue-collar, old-school days where if I didn't hand the ball directly to the ref after I got tackled or scored a touchdown, I was hearing it in the car ride home,
Yeah.
I was never allowed to dance or showboat or whatever. Be humble. Don't say anything about yourself. Don't speak about yourself. Where as I'm getting older, I'm thinking don't speak highly of yourself. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think about Muhammad Ali after he became the heavyweight champion of the world. He said, I am the greatest. He didn't say I'm not the greatest.
Yeah, right.
So I think all these high-end, top-tier athletes in any field, really, you have to think you're the best.
Yeah.
Even if you don't believe it and you have to fake it, you have to think like that.
I agree.
Or else you don't have a shot.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was PFF, quote tweeted Jamar Chase, saying he believed he was the best receiver in the NFL, and they're like, do you agree? And listed 6 other receivers. And I was like, every single one of those 6 receivers and every other, 100 receivers in the NFL should believe they're the best in the NFL.
Right.
That's how you have to train. That's how you have to prepare.
Yeah.
Or else you're never going to be the best.
And first off, journalists love asking that question because it's a lose-lose for the person who's answering it.
Yeah.
If you say you're the best, then, you're cocky. This guy's crazy, And if you don't say you're the best, then it's do you have confidence in yourself?
Yeah, right. They're setting you up to fail.
Yeah. So, and it's going to be clickbait either way. But I love I get amusement out of when people ask athletes those questions.
But the humility piece is really important, and that's a fine line to walk, right? If someone's giving me compliments, I'm going to be much more humble than if someone's insulting me.
Oh, that's a good point.
So that's how I look at humility is if someone's giving me compliments, being hey, I appreciate that. That means a lot. Versus doubling down and be someone says you're really great. Yeah, I am the greatest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus now if someone wants to come challenge me and say oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I know I can. Be I literally can.
Yeah.
You want to come watch me.
Right.
There's a difference in having that reactionary belief in yourself where I can negate the humility, right? If I have family members or in-laws that want to challenge me to something and it's you name the time and place,
right.
I'll let you know how it's going to go before it goes.
Yeah.
And then we'll watch it play out.
Yeah.
Versus if they are complimentary, I'm I appreciate it. That means a lot. And I'll downplay it a little bit.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And so that's how I view humility. And that's how I talk about being humble myself is not going out of my way to talk about myself. Mm-hmm. If someone's complimenting me, not to elevate my own status.
Right.
But if someone wants to challenge me and it's, again, either a worthy adversary or something I feel I know for myself I can do, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem. I don't believe in competing in lose-lose situations.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. So if I beat you to your challenge, and I'm supposed to beat you, well, guess what? I just did what I was supposed to do.
Exactly.
And if I lose, hey, I tip my cap to you. You were better that day.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that 100%. And humility is extremely important. And I think I like to explain it as I'm no more important than any other human.
Yep.
But I believe that I can do things that you don't believe that you can do,
Right.
just because of my self-belief in myself.
Absolutely.
And that does not mean that I'm more important than you.
Yeah.
You know, we are equal importance as human beings, but I believe that I can do anything, and that does not come on. I don't mean that in an arrogant way.
And it doesn't come off as arrogant.
And I think about all the time, like people in yoga class, you know, they're in a pose and they're saying affirmations, you know, I'm happy, I'm confident, I'm the best. You know, what is the difference of saying things about yourself in that setting or in a public setting to others? You know, like, I'm confident that I can do this. I'm the best at what I do. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I think, like you said, when people are being complimentary of you, I love that you don't need to prove yourself. You know, they already believe.
Yeah.
But I think in situations where it isn't proven, being too humble can leave you underappreciated,
Agreed.
underpaid.
Agreed.
You know, you can miss out on opportunities by not putting yourself out there.
I agree.
And saying, hey, I can do this.
I agree.
You know, if, you know, a coach or somebody is like, hey, you know, do we have a guy that can cover their receiver? And you're like trying to be humble, sitting in the corner, you know, you better get up and say you can do it, you know?
100%.
So that's really where I am at with humble is I think it's important to know that you're not important or special compared to anybody else, but you got to believe in yourself too.
100%. And I'm a big believer though in like it can't be false belief. Like there has to be work behind it.
No doubt.
Or like Muhammad Ali, like going back to one of his quotes, is like he's the greatest because he believed it before he ever was.
Mm-hmm.
But that went back to his training. It went back to his other fights that he won. And he was constantly building that resume.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I can't stand up here and scream I'm the greatest artist in the world because I can't paint for crap.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how many times I say it.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, if I wanted to say, like, I don't want to, again, not wanting to sound arrogant, but if I want to say, like, I'm one of the best players to ever play at Franklin Regional, like, that's true.
Yes.
Like, there's only a handful of athletes at Franklin Regional that have achieved what I did.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's based in truth.
Yeah.
Now, you can debate it with, you know, people that came before me or people that have come after me, who's better, whatever, that's fine. But it is factual and has basis for argument to say, like, I'm one of the best players at Franklin.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's not arrogant. It's just what I believe, what I know to be true. And, like, I would lace them. I can't run right now. But 7 months from now, I'll lace them up with anyone who's around my age and still in shape. So it's like, that's where I find it, right? It's like based in truth.
Yeah.
It's like my belief in myself and my accomplishments based in truth.
Right.
And my goal is to have one of the best podcasts in this space to ever exist. Now, I'm not the best podcaster yet, but I believe I'm going to get there.
Yes. I love that. Saying that you haven't done it yet. You know,
Right.
it's not that you haven't done it. It's not that you're not going to. You just haven't done it yet. Yeah.
Yep.
Love that. And another following up on your quote, I think it might be Alex Hormozy, but he says
he's got so many bangers.
Yeah, he's the best. You know, confidence isn't shouting affirmations in the
mirror. This is Hormozy.
It's having a stack of undeniable proof.
Yep.
That, you know, backs your opinion.
Yeah. And so I love that. And, you know, one of the main reasons, too, I wanted to get you on, right, is a lot of people who've made it, they don't talk about the journey or the things that suck, right? Those conversations are really focused around where they're currently at. Mm-hmm. And I love where you're at in your journey because it's so real and authentic right now and you're living it. And so to wrap up here for the sake of time, I could talk to you for 3 hours.
Right.
And we're going to get you back on. But the journey right now, what does your day-to-day like actually look like so people can appreciate all the things you're doing and how you're chasing it and how you don't have like free time to like do whatever you want all the time?
Well, I actually tweeted this yesterday. I think I'm the best version of myself when I am so busy.
Yeah.
I'm more, I don't want to say lazy, but I'm more, you know, when my schedule isn't full it's like, okay, I waste more time then.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can scroll on Instagram for a half hour here and, nothing happens. But I think falling in love with the journey is the easiest way to go achieve the goal, and not looking long term and thinking, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to become. Because, a long-term goal, it's so far in the future that if you just look at the end point, you're like, man, I'm never going to get there.
It's so far away. Yep.
But the approach I try to take is I just try to be as productive and be the best version of myself today that I can. And that doesn't mean that I'm at my 100% my best. If I can only give 85% of my best that day, I'm going to give 85, And then I got to get up and do it again tomorrow. I'm just going to keep stacking and stacking and stacking. And eventually I look up and I'm like, wow, I'm here. I'm at my end goal. So to answer your question specifically is, so I get up. First thing I do is I write 10 things I'm grateful for in my journal.
Love that.
I'm a big journal guy. That's been a huge piece of my process and my success, I think, is thinking about things I'm grateful for, because I think it's so easy to, when you're trying to pursue something, you're so focused on getting to the destination that you don't appreciate what you have.
Yep.
And that's something that I did throughout my life. Is like, growing up, I was like, all right, I just want to become a high school starter.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, I'm like, I'll be good,
Yeah.
But then when I get there, I'm like, I want to go Division I.
Yeah.
And then when I get there, I'm like, man, I just want to go to the league, and it's like always the next thing.
Yep.
So I know one of my favorite quotes is, the foolish man seeks happiness in the distance, but the wise, you grow it at your feet.
Yep.
So that's the grateful aspect. So I do that, and then I have a mobility or yoga session, kind of mixed in with a meditation. And if you would have told me I'd be meditating, journaling, and doing yoga, I'd be like, man, you are crazy. That's not the JP I know. It's just, I guess it comes with maturity. I don't know.
Nah, I'm with you. I do the same things. Except
So
the yoga.
important.
I need to start doing yoga.
So important.
But continue.
So I have that. And then recently I just have a small part-time job, which I do almost every day, I guess. And then I go to my training session, and that's probably like, it's a speed session and a weightlifting session. So it's probably, I'm usually there for like 4 or 5 hours, it seems like. And then I go straight from there to the studio to do television at night. Take a shower, get dressed, go to the studio, do my thing. And then I'm on my way home, and I eat. And I love eating. So I left out the big thing. So I eat a lot.
Yeah.
But other than that, so it's a couple jobs, training. The important time for myself to unwind is extremely vital.
Yep.
And I think I've gotten better at saying no.
Yep.
Hey, JP, let's come over, hang out, watch the game. Let's go get dinner. Where, it's like a hamster wheel. Like, you're just never going to catch up to yourself, and you're always feeling tired.
Yeah.
Where it's like, man, like, I'm busting my butt trying to become the best version of myself. Like, I need that extra half-hour nap.
Yeah.
So that's, I try to get in bed by 10 o'clock at the latest.
Yeah.
Sleep's very important to me. So, yeah, I got my meditation, my journaling, couple sources of income, part-time jobs, podcast, stuff like this.
Yeah.
Training is definitely number one priority.
Yeah.
And then I want to get into television whenever I've done playing. So I'm just doing that on the nights, which is good. It works out perfect for my schedule because I can train during the day and then do that at night, and make some money there on the side doing that, because I don't leave for 2 more months. So I leave in May, and that's all I'm doing, man. And I'm enjoying the process. I think that's the most fun part, or the most important part, like we talked about, is having fun during the journey. And that's what I didn't realize when I was younger.
Yeah.
Is my favorite book ever is Chop Wood, Carry Water. If you haven't read
telling
it,
me about that. Yeah.
It's changed my life. And just keep chopping wood, carrying water. And that's my day-to-day motto.
I love it, man. Hey, I honestly, there's so many things you said I could unpack and go in deeper. Journaling, meditation, visualization, I'm on it every day.
Yes.
But hey, man, can't thank you enough for coming on. Can't wait to get you back on. Definitely something I have to do. Because like I said, I could talk to you for 3 hours today, man.
Yeah, let's do it. We got to hang out soon. I
Yes.
appreciate you, and I really mean that, man. Like, heart to heart, athlete to athlete, man to man, like, you get it.
Yeah.
And there's not – on this journey, I've learned that my circle has gotten smaller and smaller in a good way, I think.
Yeah.
It's quality over quantity.
Agreed.
And keeping people in your life that have a similar mindset and that genuinely want to see the best for you is so important to me. Because one thing I've realized is that there is no man in the world that wants to see you do better than them other than your dad.
Yeah.
Your dad is the only one.
Yep.
Other than that,
Yep.
your friends, as you're climbing up this ladder, like, they want to see you do well, but maybe not as good as them,
Right.
And so you have always given genuine support, and honestly, that means the world to me. So I appreciate that.
Ah, man, that means the world to me too. But I appreciate you. We'll get you back on. We'll get together soon too.
Yes, sir.
Tune in next week, guys. Appreciate it. Throw JP. Where can people find you, JP? Where can people find you?
Instagram. I'm new in the TikTok game, trying to build up the TikTok game. Twitter, obviously, but Instagram, Twitter, I'm most on actively. So at JP5_era, Johnny Petrishen. I appreciate it. We're having good content coming your way.
I appreciate you guys. Tune in next week. Like, rate, subscribe. Have a good one.